Hello and welcome to another episode. I am Brian, the Unskilled Commander. This is Possibilities, where I take 3 legendary creatures and just try and, off the top of my head, think about how I would go about building them as commander decks. What would I make the themes of the decks? What kind of key cards would I just try and toss in there to do those themes? Would I even bother making them into commander decks, or they're not good enough? It's a really fun thought experiment, and it gets the creativity going, and sometimes I actually end up making the decks from some of the ones that I showcase here. Case in point, our first commander up for evaluation here, Baird Argivian Recruiter. So I've actually been playing Arena on Twitch a little bit. There's a whole reason, a whole story behind all that. Too long didn't read is that I try to get the charity function activated on Twitch by becoming an affiliate so I can do cool commander charity stream later on. So I'm just churning through arena games to try and, get some experience and stuff like that. So I don't have a lot of cards in the arena because I just made up a new account and all that. But the deck I'm using is red-white and it has Baird in it. That's where I found him. And I just really liked his ability and thought it would be fun to try and make it into a deck. So I think I might eventually, not anytime soon, but I might start making it on Moxfield or something just to see what kind of cards I'd put in. But to start with here, he is a 2-drop 2/2. So right off the bat, that's pretty solid for a commander. You're going to get him out on turn 2 ahead of everybody else. So you can start smacking for commander damage because most people will be open by then. So that's always the lower cost on a commander, I feel, the better. You can play it sooner, and when it inevitably gets blown up or bounced or whatever, the commander tax doesn't add up as fast. You can still play it 2-3 more times before it would become too expensive to recast. But the fun part about Baird is that at the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power greater than its base power, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Now, the thing is that's only one. So it doesn't matter how many creatures you have with higher power than their base power, you only make one soldier at your end step. But there's ways to ramp that up, because obviously with white, you have access to all those really great token doublers. So you get a couple of those in the deck and then maybe get 1 or 2 on the field. Now you're making 2, maybe even 3 soldiers at your end step, but they're still just 1/1s. However, by playing the deck in Arena, one of the things I found out was that everything counts, so static buffs count. War Leader's Call is the one that's in the deck right now, so that's a really great one because whenever a creature enters the battlefield, opponent takes the damage, and it gives +1/+1 to all your creatures. So stack that with Glorious Anthem, a favorite card of mine, which regrettably has been coming out of decks because it gives +1/+1 to all your creatures, but there's normally something else you kind of really need to do with that deck, whatever, so a 1/1 buff isn't that necessary, but in a deck like Baird, that would really help. You get a couple of those out, now your 1/1 tokens that are now 4/4s. What I would also like to do with this is I try to make it really enchantment heavy. Any kind of enchantments that give any kind of other keywords. Now in red, you're going to have haste easy enough. White, you might be able to give them flying, but maybe if there's trample, maybe death touch, obviously that's going to be more of a green or a black. They might not be as easy to get in red and white, but you get the idea. Enchantments that do something to your board state and give your creatures something beneficial. Lifelink in white, that'd be great. And you do that along with the token doublers. Okay, cool. Now you're pumping out 2 or 3 4/4s with flying and lifelink at your end step. For like a big money in terms of, a big mana cost card, toss in Avacyn. So now all of your permanents are indestructible. So now you can just take your time, build up a ton of those tokens, and swing out and hopefully take out the board state all at once, or take out the threat and make yourself the threat, but have a better positioning to move forward. I don't think it's going to be it certainly wouldn't be some kind of EDH level or crazy good, but I think with the right kind of enchantments and token doublers and things like that, and some key creatures, possibly soldiers. My friend Brad was making a joke that I would have a bunch of 2-drop soldier decks like my Harbin, and then if I made Bard, and then try to get the other colors. It's not a horrible idea. So get some really good soldiers in red and white in there that buff your other soldiers. All kinds of things that, do damage or do whatever to your opponent. So it could be a really fun deck, and I definitely think throughout sometime this year I will look into making it definitely on Moxfield, but maybe even hopefully in paper. So the next commander we have up is Dr. Madison Lee from the Fallout set. Now, obviously, you're thinking, well, Brian, there's already a deck built. You don't have to do anything. True. I was looking at it, and I love energy. I loved when energy was an actual mechanic that came out in Standard. It's fun. I have a 60-card deck that uses it, and I'm really glad that Fallout brought it back, and there's also that it's coming back in Thunder Junction or whatever. So I'm hoping that with both of those, there'll be enough good energy cards that you can really make your own flavored energy deck. You don't have to just make Madison Lee with 1 or 2 tweaks. You can make something unique with energy, because I think it's a really fun mechanic. And one of the key points with this is it is a counter. It's an energy counter. So that means proliferate's going to work. White, blue, and red, how much proliferates in those colors, I'm not entirely sure. Blue does have a fair amount. But the point being, her ability is, first of all, she's a 3-drop, 2/3. Not too bad, right there. And it's, however, it is each of the colors, so you have to get each of the colors to play her. So turn 3, she should be coming out, maybe turn 4, probably, because you're going to need, you might get 2 blues early on or whatever, 2 reds, something like that. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy counter. You can tap her and pay an energy. Target creature gets +1/+0 and gains trample and haste till end of turn. Not too bad. Tap her and pay 3 energy, you get to draw a card. And tap her and pay 5 energy, return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So obviously it's going to be an artifact-heavy deck, but it doesn't have to be. But I would, in fact, try and keep it with that. Do something, I would like to focus on the card draw, because as I've said in a lot of different videos recently, I've come to the realization that card draw is pretty much your key component of a good functioning and high winning deck. Answers, mana ramp, all that stuff, very important, but card draw is paramount. If you have a lot of card draw, natural card draw in your deck, you'll get to all those other things, and you should have an advantage over your opponents. And so obviously your one-off spells that are like 4 mana to draw 2 or 3 cards, those are good, those are okay, but something like her is better because it's always going to be on the field, and at least once a turn you can do it, and there's plenty of cards that say untap target creature, so you can probably use her ability multiple times in a turn as long as you have enough energy counters. So I would probably make her, and I did purchase the precon, but I immediately tore it apart just for the cards because I liked the set. I didn't really care about playing the precons as they were. So I really don't remember how she was built. I could just be reiterating how she's built. And so, I apologize if that is the case. But I would definitely focus on making her almost like a robot commander, sort of like Optimus Prime, really, where lots of artifact creatures. But the point is, I would focus on her draw ability. So I would, lots of good artifact creature spells and artifact ramp to help get a lot of spells out quickly. Because again, there's no green, so the 3 of these colors combined have okay ramp, but singularly they don't. The buff spell, I'm sure that's giving something trample and haste is great. And +1/+0, I would rather it be something like +X/+0, or X is the number of creatures you control or artifacts you control. That probably would make it a little too strong. And then the 5 ability, obviously is going to be important if something that's really good gets blown up and it's an artifact, you can bring it back, but I wouldn't even worry about that. I want to focus on her card draw ability and just drawing lots of cards. And again, you got to play spells that allow you to untap Dr. Madison Lee. Otherwise, you're only getting 1 extra card a turn, which is cool, but it costs 3 energy. So I don't know how viable she is in that sense, where it's like, okay, but you're playing a lot of artifact spells. That's easy enough to do in Magic. So you can get a fair amount of energy cards relatively quickly. Play some proliferate spells. You can continue to buff them without playing actual creatures or artifacts. Spells that let you untap her to tap again to do multiple abilities in a turn. Maybe not just double draw, but maybe buff a creature, give it trample, and also draw a card. And I would also, in that line, maybe try and make something where it's like, if you're drawing cards, something else is happening. The spells where it's like, if you draw a card, target opponent takes damage, or something like that. So, and build her around card draw more than the obvious just artifact energy, where it's like, she's getting energies, you're using them to draw cards, you're drawing cards that are then in turn damaging an opponent or gaining you life or doing whatever. But I don't want to just do the precon or a very obvious carbon copy of what everyone else would do with it, with the limited amount of energy cards we have right now, especially in those 3 colors. So I'll probably hold off on building it till later in the year to see what else comes out that can help it. And of course, by doing that, it could make it a not great deck. It could be, well, because you're not playing to its strengths, it's not going to be a good deck. You're not going to win with it. So, and I probably have a problem with that. But I love, when I saw it, I got excited and I want to try something fun with it. But it wasn't like, I have to build it just like this. And then finally, third card for today is Bilbo Birthday Celebrant. So now we're going to the Lord of the Rings set. And this obviously is not a, surprise design, because everyone probably builds this one similar the way everyone probably builds Dr. Madison the same way. But Bilbo is, again, 3-drop commander, 2/3, just like Madison. And it's each 3, it's 3 of the individual colors. white, black, green. Now we do have green, so we have good mana ramp available to us, and black, which means we have a lot of -1 or minus spells or anything like that to attack our opponents, and we have some good graveyard recursion if we want to use that. Bilbo says, if you would gain life, you gain that much life +1. And then he has a very crazy ability, which is like, pay 5 mana, tap him, exile Bilbo, search your library for any number of creature cards, put them on the battlefield, and then shuffle. And you can only do that if you have 111 life, which is the joke of, his 111th birthday from the books and stuff. So on flavor, makes sense, but if you're going to get to 111 life, there's probably other things you're going to want to do with that life. And that's kind of what I was thinking. I have a Dina Soul Steeper deck that's supposed to be a life gain deck. I need to tweak it and make it better. But obviously that has Sanguine Bond and Exquisite Blood in it for that combo. Because that works with Dina too. So if you lose the one piece of it, it blows up. You can still do the combo with Dina. I would kind of take this in a similar route because of the black and green. Give it a lot of ramp, obviously. Maybe dial back the mana rocks and just focus on the actual ramp spells, getting as many basic lands out as quickly as you can. And then every card in it has to gain you life in some fashion. And then, of course, put in things like Alamar's Archive and Aetherflux Reservoir, of course, because that's really going to be your key. If you can get up to 100 life, you can blast 2 people right there and win the game, or hopefully win the game. Because by the time you're getting to 111 life, someone's probably out or getting low. But it would be fun, and like again, that's what he's about. He's about gaining life. But I would put every single one of those ones where it's like when you gain life, you gain this much extra. There's a couple of really good angels I would actually put in this that beef up the amount of life you get. There's a really great angel that I just put into my Giada deck where it's when it deals combat damage to a player, double its controller's life total. That would be perfect for this. All you gotta do is sneak her through some way, hit one person, boom, you're immediately up to 80 life. You're already getting close to being able to put every single creature you have onto the battlefield. So things like that, I would definitely try and ramp it out so that you're gaining life as fast as possible. Nothing groundbreaking about my take on this one, I know, but I think the angel aspect and then the Sanguine Bond combo might go into it. I've taken that out of quite a few black decks because it's, after using it a few times and winning, it's fun, but it also becomes a bit of a crutch because you tend to start looking for that. And I definitely don't put tutors in my decks because then you're just, if there is a combo, then you're just going for the combo. And it's like, well, why even bother? The combo comes up naturally, that's fun. But not to say that you can't. If that's how you do it, that's fine. But I just meant for me, I like to have it come up just naturally through the card draw. And of course, lots of card draw in this to get you as many of the life gain cards as possible. I don't know that I would actually build Bilbo. Maybe someday. It does sound fun to do all that, but I don't know that it's necessary. Because I have Dina, although like I said, this has white, and I could have all those cool angels in there as well. So that could speed it up and make it a fun version. So we'll see. It could be like a supplemental. Like I could like copy a lot of the cards from Dina into it and then add in a bunch of white life gain things to make it go faster. We'll see. But that's how I would build these 3 decks, or at least how I would start the process. What cards I would start looking for, and the concepts and themes of each one that I would go for. How about you? What kind of cards would you put into these decks? Would you even bother? Do you think these aren't the best legendaries to even worry about? Would you build something else? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time.